Hello everybody and welcome back to Nostalgia Train. We're going to see if I can find the next memory. There's one over there. Let's go and see what this leads to. A night scene spreads out around me. People are dressed in yukata, heading in the direction of the beach. It's time for the floating lanterns already. Yeah, it's going to be beautiful again this year. There's a sign here for the floating lanterns. It explains that the lanterns are real, floating out to sea like in other places, but are made like balloons out of Japanese paper, the air inside warmed by a candle to be released up into the sky. There is a picture of the lanterns all rising like fireflies, the light from the stars and the ground all merging into a single brilliant illumination. It also says it started in the Kamakura period, but the reasons for this tradition have not been passed down to the present. No one remembers. I see lanterns rising into the sky, an illusory column of light. Across hundreds of years, every single year without fail, light sent off into the sky by the hands of so many people. They all align and merge together, becoming so bright it's like daylight around me. The very air quivers, another and then another lantern rises upwards. As I watch the light rising away, the light in front of me fades away. A moment ago it was like everything melted together, but now it's like water dripping from a waterfall flowing backward in time, slowly increasing the darkness of the night. 10 more lights, they continue upward, blending into the darkness. 5, 4, 3, 2, and the final one, glittering brightly one final time, shuddering as though afraid to leave my sight. I hear a cat meow. Then again this one is slightly higher pitched, 2 cats then. It's coming from the bamboo grove next to the temple, then a calm, neutral voice rings out in my head. Let me show you the beginnings of the lantern tradition in this place. You seem to have forgotten about it. The final light in front of me flies off towards the bamboo grove, as though inviting me along behind it, as though enticing me to remember something even more important. I hear a man's voice. This is a memento of my father and the departed princess. We shall place them here and create a temple. Forgive me, both of you, for laying you to rest here in this place so far from our ancestral lands. Please forgive me. We shall build a temple as best we can. We have limited tools, limited workers, but we'll do what we can. We have the time. Some people around him are crying. What is this? From the time the temple was first created? Now it's a small but fine looking temple. It seems to have been created long ago as a memorial to someone. The ball of light turns to the left and heads away along the mountain path. The mountain path at night looks like the darkness has opened its maw for me, instilling the terror that I might be caught forever in that dark, depthless world. But then I remember the voice from before telling me to remember something I've forgotten. Those words ring inside my skull, binding me, and it feels like I'm being drawn towards the mountain path, with almost no sensation in my own hands and feet. That's right, this is nothing. Nothing compared to having lost everything, struggling through those mountains, that endless muddy track, no sensation in our feet, our food all used up, and yet all that nothing again compared to everything we had already lost. To man's voice again. Then I say people, dozens of them, men, women, young and old, silently walking through the mountains at night. I look more closely to see they are all wearing dirty, torn kimono, and many of the men have swords at their side. This isn't a contemporary vision. Maybe it's connected to how the lanterns event got started. It's like I'm looking down on them from a slightly floaty, elevated position. They can't see me, but don't know I'm there. My body is light, floating like one of those lanterns. I can clearly see the expressions on each of their faces. Their bodies are exhausted, with some of them even walking barefoot, perhaps having worn out their sandals. Their feet are bleeding from under their nails, from their legs, but it looks like a while since they've had any time to worry about such injuries or take a break. Ah, an old lady falls over, her legs collapsing beneath her. She has to be at her physical limit. She raises her arms and tries to grab the sleeves of one of the passing men. The man is young and small, however, and apologises before looking away and carrying on. The others do the same. No one stops to help her, no one tries to pick her up to carry her. She is left behind by the exhausted group, left alone in the darkness. That means this kind of thing, leaving one of their own behind. It isn't the first time for this exhausted group, as they head towards some destination, or away from somewhere else. They simply continue to walk, pushed on by deep despair, and the animalistic, semi-unconscious instinct for those with the energy, and only those to carry on as far as they possibly can. That's what it looks like. What? Saigan has been killed? Are you sure? Yes, Lord Saigan and his men fought bravely, but their fort was overrun and fell into enemy hands. It must have been hard for him to leave you and the princess behind. Lord Arataki, please compose yourself. I hear these voices from the darkness. Arataki again. But this time he's the Lord. The clattering sound of armour too, the light of candles, the presence of multiple men. I'm seeing a scene from long ago. That much is clear now. Arataki, that name has a nostalgic ring to it. Who was he? Man bites his lip hard, gripping his hands together and glaring down at the ground as though to bore a hole into it. We have been fighting for decades. At one time we pushed them back, thriving for a while, but then the tide turned against us again, and our foes surged back. Now so few of us remain. Having the bold Saigan on our side was perhaps the final thing supporting our morale. I know that all too well. Losing him might be the final blow for us. Lord Saigan has been our ally since the time of your father, Arataki, and I also feel such sorrow for his daughter, Lady Ray. A young woman is sitting alone in a room illuminated by the pale blue moon, reading by the light of a candle. In comes the master of his castle, the young man called Arataki. As avid a reader as ever I see, and that comment, she shifts her eyes from the book and looks at him, her long eyelashes glitter translucently into the moonlight. Yes, just like you, my lord Arataki. Is it strange for a woman like me to read so much, perhaps? She smiles at Arataki. Turns his eye aside as though unable to look directly at her smile. A heavy silence lasts for a few moments as he struggles to breach a difficult subject. The woman continues speaking, perhaps aware of his hesitation, perhaps not. But I have a strong feeling the conflict will end soon. Once that happens, we need more remaining than barren sadness. I need to plant something beautiful inside myself and nurture it keenly for when our world of peace finally arrives. When it does, I hope that I may find the opportunity to share with the people the knowledge and stories I have learned. Whether they are poems that tell of distant lands, the records of this conflict, or tales of your own brilliance, Arataki. After all, we suffer such hardships at the moment, our people and our soldiers both with scant fun to be had in these times of strife. You are of noble blood. It is unlikely you will be allowed to address the common folk so casually. Why ever that, though? The world is always changing, or maybe we shall be the ones to change it. The princess has a gentle smile on her face, but Arataki's face is harsh. To change the world indeed. If I had not been born into such times, I would have loved to live my life in poetry and song, but all I can do today is fight. Silence falls again, a hard and heavy silence, as though the shadows cast by the moonlight through the window can be seen moving across the room. Arataki is the one who breaks it, although he still seems unable to broach his real reason of being here. When you first came to me, it was on a night with a beautiful moon like this. To start with, I didn't even want to meet you. Saigan has long been an ally of my father. To hear of his daughter of such an important man, and that she was to be married to me? Just the kind of scheme my father would think up. Thought of myself as nothing but a leaf, carried swirling through the torrent of my father's ambitions, to simply be used up by him. Until you actually arrived, until you first came to this place, I saw your beauty and your grace for the first time. He stops talking again, the princess seemed to have sensed something in his manner. Lord Arataki, you have come to tell me something, have you not? She asks. Determination finally settles on his face. Your father is gone. I'm told it was a brave and fitting end. I see. And what will you do next? Continue the fight. That is the only choice. But is that really what you want to do? But no, I shouldn't ask such things. Please, may I be alone for a while? I wish to bathe in the moonlight a little longer. Now memory's down there, so is there one up here still? Oh, there's one here. Now I see a scene from a different room. Another group of men are gathered, muttering to themselves while looking all around. Since our lord met with betrayal from our former allies and fell, leaving young Arataki to take up his seat, it is a fact that the presence of Lord Saigon has provided much support to our men. Things are going to get a lot harder. Things are going to get a lot harder for us now. How is Princess Ray doing? She has sunk into a depression, looking at the moon all night without once taking to her bed. We have but a few soldiers left between all of us and Lord Arataki. What can we hope to achieve? We must protect Princess Ray. Though we stand on the back foot, her bloodline is the proof of our legitimacy. Indeed, but what of Lord Arataki? He might have made a fine lord if not for this crisis. He still yearns for the pen in his poems, and is not much of a warrior. His father and Lord Saigon must both have regretted their passing, with the future of our land still in doubt. I understand what you are saying. With our current lord and remaining numbers, we can't hope to maintain morale. But if we fold now, our righteousness and justice will be trampled to nothing. These are the things they are talking about. Other things also flow into me, the worries of the people, fragments of conversations and their concerned expressions. Everything speaks to the tension they all hold towards this situation, with seemingly no resolution. In that moment, a mounted soldier arrives at the gate and starts knocking. He looks in terrible shape, like he barely escaped from the enemy. The soldier passes through the gate, unwraps a preciously cradled piece of cloth and offers Saigon's sword to Arataki and Princess Ray. He explains how it is the blade the Lord used to commit his ritual suicide. This soldier was ordered by her father to bring the weapon to his daughter, and rolled without pause to complete the task. The princess, who has been so stalwart until now, sees the sword and then breaks down, crying quietly. Without any time for serious grief, the soldier has another important piece of information to impart. Enemy forces are approaching their position from 3 directions. They should come into view in any moment. They try to gather whatever forces they have, but Arataki and his few remaining men are never going to offer effective resistance to this threat. Time passes quickly, uncaring of their plight. Among the fragments I see of these events, one is Arataki going to see the princess. The final battle is almost upon us. Being of the bloodline of your mother, we have no idea what the enemy may do if they capture you. Should we face defeat, you need to be prepared to take appropriate action. Lord Arataki, I have one important request. There's a long silence. I feel like I can see the candles in the room slowly burning shorter. I've been thinking one thing this entire time. I've become convicted it is your only choice. Please surrender to the enemy. If you continue this fight, more innocent lives will be lost and nothing more. Please, choose to protect the lives of your living vassals and ministers. This seems like a sudden development. I have no way of knowing the effect these words have on his heart, but however he might feel about the idea, even as such an ardent request for his wife, you can't possibly accept it in his position. This coming from the daughter of Saigon, a brave hero who died with honour? No, you think I'm a coward too, do you? With my father and Saigon gone, you still think I'm unworthy to stand in command of my men? His expression is not one of anger, but more one of sadness, maybe even disappointment. No, that's not what I'm saying. Please believe me. Do you think my father wished for our destruction? This is difficult to say, but my father had taken to saying anything, saying something in his final days. That is, anything were to happen to him. Just hearing this prompts Arataki to hurry from the room. He orders the guards outside to lock the door and keep the princess inside until the fighting ends. The next morning, sunlight faintly illuminates the mountains from behind banks of ash-grey clouds. The enemy forces spread into the distance, completely surrounding the fortress. Faced with these overwhelming odds, the fortress they are trapped inside looks little more than a mud hut. A flash of light through the clouds illuminates the faces of the enemy, and as though taking that as their signal, they unleash a storm of flaming arrows. It almost looks like the flock of lanterns I saw earlier, but this flock is filled with the swirling intent of evil. It takes me moments for the fires to spread, and the castle is thrown into chaos. Soldiers rush around with water, but further burning arrows rain down as quickly as the first fires can be extinguished, and the flames only grow higher. The gates and guard towers are aflame. If the enemy advances like this, Arataki's forces will be unable to prevent them reaching the main keep. Amid the shouts of rage, anguish and despair, something untoward happens. A peal of thunder rolls out so loud as to almost split the world. The clouds boil a dark and black, a vertical torrent of rain begins to shaft down, placing the castle at the foot of a waterfall. Neither side can maneuver in the downpour, and the ground quickly turns to mud, causing a forced ceasefire. The fires are all extinguished too. No one is celebrating. The issue is far greater than that of fire arrows and flames now. Once this rain stops, the enemy are going to pour in and trample the fort underfoot. That will bring an end to this long conflict. The rain seems heavy and hard to all underneath it. Then the strangely eldritch sound of a conch shell being blown rings out. From a misty forest in a different direction from the enemy, something shining darkly moves out towards the castle. Amid the downpour, 4 bearers with scarf-covered heads are carrying a palanquin calmly over the rain-drenched ground, quietly walking towards the castle. The guards shout at them to stop, asking them who they are, but the approaching men pay no heed. One of the soldiers dashes out to confirm who these newcomers are. After observing them for a while, sharing a few words and checking inside the palanquin, the guard returns to report. Lord Arataki, someone claiming to be a monk asked for an audience with you in the middle of this battle? Some agent of the enemy most likely. I inspected them carefully and found no weapons. They repeated only that they serve no warrior, and simply hope to bring some measure of aid to those who pray to God. If we allow an audience before the rain ends, the monk said, there might be a way for us to escape this predicament. Crafty dogs, just what are they after? No peal of thunder rolls out, but for one moment the clouds in one corner of the sky seem to part, and the rain seems to slow. Once the rain ends completely, the enemy will surely attack again. Arataki looks off into the distance. To change the world and talk of poems with the people, my lord? Nothing. You check for weapons, correct, and things like poisons too? Yes, a thorough inspection. Very well, let us see where this leads us. If they make any suspicious movement, cut them down where they stand. Prepare to admit them. The gates are opened and the unsettling black palanquin allowed admittance. A man with a black cloth wrapped around his head climbs out. He moves up to Arataki and kneels. Remove your headcloth, I need to look upon your face. Of course. I apologise for any offence I may have caused. The man proceeds to use both hands to lift the cloth from his face. The visage inside looks old, but has a strange lustrous of skin. It is also completely hairless, with no eyebrows or even eyelashes. His expression is so fixed his mouth might be glued to his face, but his eyes are sparkling. He looks so strange, it sends a quiver through my soul. Like something from another world rather than a god that might save them. He looks more like an agent of death himself has appeared among them. You do seem to be having some trouble here. The man gives a dry rasp of laugh from deep inside his throat. I'm pleased you're so amused. We are merely humble monks seeking to save as many as we can from this wild and dangerous world. Allow us to give our own prayer to this land of corpses. Just what are you planning? I will not allow any tricks. We are planning nothing, we assure you. My brothers and I seek only to save lives. This world is a place of spiritual training overflowing with pain. To make our way through it and pray for others is also how we train. It seems you and all your men are suffering most bitterly here. You hardly need eyes to tell that. Once this reign ends, the final battle will be engaged and we will surely perish. Monk Laspet another laugh at this proclamation from Arataki. The men around him are disturbed by this and some reach for their swords, but Arataki stops them. The monk continues, "Would you like to make a deal with our god? We have the power to offer such a bargain." A deal? We see everything. An evil spirit that would bring destruction to your house has been possessing you for a while now. We can seal this curse away. Think for a moment, you surely have some idea of what I speak of. An old blind minster speaks up. "Perhaps in the times for your father Arataki and your grandfather before him, we did prosper, but seemingly in one instant, everything turned against us. Our enemies found all in their favour, and our most powerful warriors fell. I could believe it's a work of an evil spirit." Arataki still doesn't seem to quite believe it. "You are likely spinning this same tale to our enemies. What do you want?" "We want for nothing. Almost nothing. In order to grant your desire, there is one thing we would ask for, that is all." "I knew it, and what do you want?" "We have precious little to give you. We do not seek treasures. We ask that you and those who are saved must continue their spiritual training down the generations ahead." "Which means what?" "I speak of when you are reborn again in the future. Really, it is nothing of significance. The true nature of this world is casuality and karma. These things will simply appear as different fluctuations. Be it casuality or karma, the very moment we are living in now is within that same flow. We are those who gently insert their hands into the endless flow of that river, tilting our palms, changing its course ever so slightly, and creating as a result a slight variation on casuality via a different present or future. The volume of water is purity, and impurities, none of these things are changed. The balance of the world is maintained, and yet the collapse of your house, the fall of your people, that can be avoided. Our prayers contain the possibility of that. If you are willing to feel the burden of karma and accept some measure of understanding of this world." All of those listening have puzzled expressions on their faces, unable to make sense of what the monk is telling them. But when he talked about their escape from destruction, I felt the heart of everyone present skip a beat. The monk has woven quite a spell of words, as though binding his listeners with some kind of eldritch art. "I can't believe this so easily. Why would you do this? What do you want? Can you not feel it about us? We are those born between this world and the next. We intervene ever so slightly in this world, preventing souls from falling into the infinite darkness of casuality. If you are unable to believe us, then that will be the end of it. Maybe you would accept it more easily if I told you what we created. If I told you what we created this standpoint in order to give us the time to come and talk with you. You still hear the rain, do you not? And how it grows fainter? If we leave this place, the skies will clear at once and the enemy will attack with the dawn. If that is what you desire, we can arrange that easily enough." Arataki and the ministers all look at each other. They still have a feeling, rooted deep in their logical hearts, that all of this is too sudden and strange a thing to quickly believe. On the other hand, they clearly have no other way to be saved, and the incantation-like words of the monks have also affected them deeply. "Very well. Give your prayers. If nothing changes, your heads will fly." The monk gives a satisfied nod, and the other four immediately begin the preparations. They begin to chant what sounds like some kind of spell. A long and unbroken piece of music. They start a fire, form a circle around it, and begin to pray. The ceremony continues through the night. Toward morning, the sky starts to brighten. It is the complete opposite of the day before, with clear skies completely free from clouds. The monks sit around the burnt-out fire, no longer moving. Arataki and the others have been awake all night watching them pray, and now the monks have stopped moving and talking completely. The other men quickly jump to their feet. "Hey, have you completed your prayers?" Arataki grabs the robe of the monk with a rustling sound. The headcloth clothing drops to the ground in an empty pile. "What is the meaning of this? They've vanished. Where have they gone?" Then one of the princess's handmaidens rushes in, her face pale. "Lord Arataki, Princess Rei is suddenly taken ill. Please, you must come at once." He rushes to the princess's chamber. He opens the door to find her lying weakly on the bed, coughing and spluttering. When she notices him nearby, Princess Rei raises both her arms. It looks like she can't even see, but she has sensed Arataki by his body warmth and his breathing. She places both hands around his face. holding his cheeks. Then she speaks, her voice fading fast. Lord Arataki, forgive me. I understand everything now. This is some kind of punishment, of that I am sure. You have been so kind to the core of your soul, and I have continued to betray that kindness. What are you talking about? Explain yourself, Princess Ray. I am Ray, daughter of Saigan. Saigan pretended to be a brave general in service to your father, but in actuality he served your enemies. What? Not for his own selfish gain though, Arataki, that I have to believe. He wanted to end this fighting as quickly as possible and bring peace to this world. This has to be true. From as young as I can remember, my standing has been drilled into me, explained to me over and over. What is the most important thing I must do? How to act while I'm your bride, Lord Arataki. Arataki is unable to say anything and simply listens to the princess talk. Just once, my father told me something most terrible. I will never forget the look on his face that day. If anything were to happen to him, if he were facing death at the hands of any of the sides, he would consider the situation at that time and send me a memento of his life. If my mother's hairpin arrived, he told me intently I should join you and live in righteousness at your side. But if his sword arrived, I should immediately use it to cut you down and then open the gates to the enemy. No! Arataki saw the sword carried in by the messenger, and it is now in a corner of the room. I wanted to save you. At the same time, I also wanted this conflict to come to an end as quickly as possible. I'm so glad I've been able to unburden myself like this. I hope that you will not hate me. It's fine, please, hush now. No, I have one more thing, a signal my father told me about. The princess was told to use 2 smoke signals from the fort to inform the enemy. That would tell them to hold off the attack for a little while. Arataki orders ministers to do just that. If that actually does stop the enemy attack, it will also prove that her father was colluding with the enemy. Princess Ray's voice gets even fainter and harder to hear. Arataki moves his face close to her mouth. She reaches into her clothing and takes something out, something small. Please take this with you. It's something passed down my mother's line, an item used by the divine priestesses. I'm sure that it will guide you, Lord Arataki. With that, she quietly expires. Arataki gently lays her body down. The sky clears and the morning sun shines brightly down. The enemy do not move at all, however. The only sounds are the birds and the wind. But no, there is another sound, the crackling of the 2 signal fires. One of them is used to cremate the body of Princess Ray. Lord Arataki, we need to go. I'm sorry, I can't go yet. Those who wish to depart may do so. Arataki waits as long as possible to collect the bones of Princess Ray. As the smoke signals die down and the enemy can be seen preparing to attack again, he finally escapes through the rear gate. When Arataki and a few of his closest men slip away, the smoke is almost gone and the enemy release a rain of fire again. The air is dry today, the fort is swallowed by flames in an instant. That isn't all. The fire starts to spread to the forest Arataki is fleeing into. The fire spreads fast, their clothing charring, cinders flying through the air. The fire gradually closing in. They find one unburnt corner and rush into it, desperately escaping. The enemy are already attacking the main keep, but they will soon realise it is empty and start after them. Arataki and the others who escaped manage to meet up again. There are only a few dozen of them left. They begin their escape from this burning hell. There are young handmaidens and elderly people among them too. Any who can't keep up are mercilessly left behind. They run for more than a week through the mountains. Some of the ministers cling to the idea of regrouping, finding a friendly force they can join, and awaiting a change to surge back into power. But as the food runs out and they find themselves drinking rainwater and chewing leaves to survive, such bold talk fades away. They just want to avoid the enemy forces and find a safe place. As they see the ones who walked beside them yesterday fall dead today, stumbling along in an illusionary haze until they tumble over a cliff, they switch over to a pure survival instinct, simply wanting to find anything. A hut, a hovel, a pit in the ground, where they might live a little longer. When their group can barely walk forward any longer, when their limits have seemingly come, they find a valley with a small river babbling through it, finally bringing them clean water. They follow the river, and the remaining members of Rataki's party, only around 10 of them left, look down at a small bay from the waterfall. They're saved! Perhaps, although none of them can vocalise it in that moment, from deep in the mountain mist the sunlight is rising over the horizon, making the water sparkle. There's flat land that looks perfect for growing some rice, and the calm bay is filled with fish that would be easy to catch. They search around carefully, confirming there are no dangerous animals or risks of enemies finding them here. They wash their clothing and bodies in the water, recovering themselves a little and finding some smiles. They make tools, cut down some trees, and make rough relics. Those with blacksmith and carpentry experience surviving the ordeal really saves them. To begin with, they are careful even with lighting fires, worried about giving away their position, but no pursuit arrives. Arataki orders the people to build a village. They gather herbs and mountain plants, catch fish, find crops they can cultivate and plant fields. The seasons turn, the years pass, and a small settlement is formed. For all the fog in the summertime, they name the place Summerfog, Natsuragi. When a young couple marry and have their first child, there is much celebration. For many years they held the fear that those who hunted disgraced warriors would arrive, but with the passage of time and no such occurrence, such worries fade away. They don't know for sure how far removed this land is from the territory of the enemy, but it's quiet, rich in nature, and seems very safe. The people start to gradually leave the tension of war behind, and just as Princess Rei and Arataki had desired, they learn to enjoy poetry, singing, and stories, and to revel in the changing of the seasons. After more than 10 years, Arataki is still single. He had been told that the karma would fall onto those who had been saved. He didn't know if that meant himself after reincarnation or his descendants. But he's still fighting the pain of losing Princess Rei and the sadness at all the betrayal he had suffered, and he's fighting them alone. Hang on, there's more rubbish down there. In summer, a few years later, one of those who had fled here to Natsuragi dies of old age. Arataki proposes that they send lanterns up into the sky in memorial for their fallen comrade. The descendants that they left behind might be born into suffering right down to the end of their line. The lanterns therefore also contain the desire to ward off evil things, like the smoke signals at the fort, and the hope of taking the departed soul to heaven. The number of lanterns grows in number each year, 1 by 2. Eventually, it is 40 years since the refugees settled in Natsuragi. Arataki is old now, and there are more young people living in the village. The children and grandchildren of those who came here first. The people are self-sufficient, not living rich lives, but peaceful ones. Two boys started to fight over one of the village girls. One of them took his grandfather's sword and killed the other boy. Everyone who was left behind was greatly saddened by this happening. Even though things seemed peaceful, it is impossible to completely remove the darkness from people's hearts. That added another lantern to be sent up into the sky. There was another family with a parent and child who couldn't get along, and the child left Natsuragi. The child didn't come back. No one living there knew what things were like outside the village. They gave up thinking the child was lost. Arataki was still alone. With his crooked back, he climbed slowly up into the mountains. is up here. Oh, there it is. What a peaceful place. The squabbles may continue, but we feel completely separated from the world of conflict out there. I would have been so happy if Princess Ray could have been here with me. Was it a mistake to make that foolish deal? That was a question with no answer, and yet a question that circles inside his head every single day. Could he persuaded her to run away with him? There was no escape from his regrets. Were the descendants of these people going to be born here, and then have to suffer in this peaceful place? He wanted the curse to end with his generation. Then he feels a presence at his back. He turns to see two women standing there, one wearing white and one wearing a black kimono. Who are you? No need to be surprised. We have watched over the priestess from this mountain since ancient times. Futaki wonders if he's seen things in his old age, or if maybe there's some kind of evil spirit. What do you mean, priestess? There is a gentle hill in the middle of the valley, correct? The priestess was buried there long ago. We are her protectors. This land has been uninhabited for hundreds of years since that time. You have achieved much in a short span. Well done. You aren't of this world, are you? Then you already see it, don't you? The foolish thing I did as a young man. I've lost so many precious things. I too will soon be gone. If possible, I wish to rise with that light up into heaven. Tell me, both of you, I have lived alone in remembrance of those I've lost. Will the casualty surrounding me end with me? Will the children of this village live happily, blessed lives? That is an impossibility. You are cursed. All of you. Cursed. Cursed to the end of each of your lines. This is not limited to only you. It will appear in each of those who are born here. The suffering you have created will rain down on each of them. That is what you wanted. And it is not necessarily a bad thing. What a bad thing? How can you say that? What do you mean? Because that is already the nature of this world. You cannot be so naive. Indeed, you already know this truth better than most. Impurities may pool in one place, but in others the water runs clear. The entire river does not become polluted and does not become clean. The curse cannot muddy the water. Sometimes dirty, sometimes clear. Simply changing between those two alternate states, but foolish humans are unable to understand this. The two women, one in white and one in black, laugh with sounds like calling birds. The voices blend into the forest, fading away, and the two of them form a spiral in the air and vanish as well. Sarataki comes down from the mountain, two cats cross in front of him, one white and one black. Arataki tells the people that they need to build a shrine up in the mountain, a place to wish for the peace of the residents of Natsuragi. That is the final command that he gives his people. Another lantern rises into the air, a big one, released by the people whose lives are now rooted in Natsurugi, with the hope of carrying Arataki's soul away to the heavens. It was followed by a second large lantern. This was something Arataki asked for on his deathbed, to send another beautiful light into the sky for Princess Ray. Natsuragi Memory Fragment 6 complete. So we got to learn about the past of the village. Oh, it's foggy now. How this village was created. We found out that it's actually cursed. Right, I'm going to finish this one here, guys. In the next one, we will do the final memory and see where this is all leading. Hope you're enjoying this as much as I am so far. Very interesting game. Very cool. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. Until next time, take care.